For many of us, working from home has become the new normal. Sounds great, doesn't it? No commute times, comfortable clothing, familiar surroundings, maybe even your dog. Yet the uncertain times mean that stress levels are high. Producer Greg Grell talked with UMD psychology professor Julie Slowiak about reducing anxiety while you work from home.
First, simply acknowledging that those feelings of anxiety and thoughts of worry are completely normal during this time of uncertainty. And I think that in and of itself is a great strategy, just to be mindful of the fact that what you're feeling is normal, and those feelings and thoughts of anxiety are protective mechanisms. They help us identify when we are in an uncertain or threatening environment. So it's very normal to have that right now. But grounding strategies are really quite simple, and they can be very useful in kind of giving you that pause that you need in order to respond more effectively during this time of uncertainty. And so a really simple one that I use, that I've taught my students to use, is to really engage with your senses. So wherever you are, whether you're sitting down, you're walking outside, first just identify a few things that you can see in your environment. Then listen, identify a few things that you can hear, maybe things that you can feel or touch, and maybe even things that you can smell or taste depending on what you're doing. So we can engage in kind of these mindful activities with our senses throughout the day. So it could be as simple as, going out to get your mail and, taking just a few moments, taking a few deep breaths and engaging with your senses to become more present.
That's excellent. One of the other things, especially for maybe elderly people or people who have been homebound to start with, isolation and loneliness can really be a problem for people. What can people do to fill those kind of social needs we all have?
Yeah, so I think the first thing to acknowledge is that social distancing is not the same as physical distancing. And what we've really been asked to do is to physically distance ourselves. And so getting creative with how you're going to engage socially, whether it is through, drive-by hellos and greetings. I saw a lot of that happening over the weekend, actually. Friends of mine were driving past, grandparents, parents' homes, waving out the window. That's a great way to do it. Or connecting with family who may not be even living in close proximity. I saw a lot of virtual Easter dinners happening. Virtual happy hours have become a thing too. So, using, any type of video software that you have available. And there are a number of different apps and things that you can use. A friend of mine just made me aware of a video text messaging app where you can leave your friends and loved ones short little video messages instead of texting them, which can be fun, fun way to be able to see your friends and loved ones. I have scheduled a virtual coffee break with colleagues as another way to stay connected during this time.
What about staying physically active, during the governor's stay-at-home order? What kind of things can people do to stay physically active?
Yeah, so one of the things that I was really happy to hear was that Governor Walz encouraged people to get outside and identified those activities that we can still engage in, like biking, hiking, walking, fishing, so on and so forth, as long as we're practicing safe physical distancing guidelines. And so getting outside, if at all possible, is something that I highly recommend, because we know from the research that there is a positive association for self-reported levels of mental and psychological well-being when we're engaged in activity outside in nature. One of my go-to strategies is to schedule a walk and talk with friends, with family members, with colleagues. And so those could be done in person if you're able to practice physical distancing appropriately. But a lot of times I just throw in my earbuds, I grab the dog, we go out for a dog walk while I'm also catching up with a friend or a loved one. And, if you aren't able to get outdoors, there are a lot of ways to get active indoors too. For those of you who have a treadmill lying around that maybe you haven't been using lately, now is a great time to dust it off, take the clothes that have been draped over the handlebars and start using it. and you can use it very creatively. So one of the things that I did is I set up my old treadmill as a walking workstation. So I just took a shelf and put it over the handlebars, and I can put my laptop on there, and I can check emails while I'm getting some steps in. But I can also participate in meetings. I can, put my earphones into my laptop and shut my video off and just, listen to those meetings where I don't need to be visibly present. In addition, I know a lot of local health and fitness professionals who are streaming live classes or offering on-demand classes. And that's not only to those who are local, but I think it's a great time to really support our local businesses that aren't able to be open to the public right now. So, looking for those, and also, using DVDs, using whatever you have around the house. I've seen people pick up, bricks or cans of food and use them as workout equipment during these times. So it's really a great opportunity to be creative.
Finally, Professor, you've shared some resources online. What are some of the resources people can go to help them out during this time of stay at home?
Yeah, so one of my favorites is the Face COVID resource that Russ Harris put out. Russ is really well known within the community for acceptance and commitment therapy, and the Face COVID materials really outline an effective approach for how to respond effectively to the coronavirus. And he has made a lot of his resources freely available. Even yesterday, I saw some additional resources that he put up on his website, actmindfully.com. And so I highly recommend any of his materials. In addition, there are a number of apps that are offering free resources, such as Headspace, Insight Timer, Calm, and there's another one called the Act Companion. And for those who are looking for more structure, I would encourage you to check out ACT Guide. There is a small fee, I think it's about $10. And this program was designed by psychologists at Utah State University. And it's an evidence-based online self-help program that is designed to help individuals cope with mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and stress. So those would be my top three.
Well, thank you very much, Julie Slowiak, professor of UMD Psychology at the UMD Psychology Department. Thank you very much for your time.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this information.